Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Climb. It's the podcast where we talk digital agencies, marketing, and technology. And sometimes we talk to digital agencies. It's where you get all the tips, tricks, tools. You get some mentorship out of it. It's a peer group because that's what the digital mastermind is. And this is what brought to you by bi-weekly calls in that mastermind group. We have a yearly meeting. And if you want to grow your agency, this is not only the podcast for you, the Digital Mastermind is the group for you. So during today's broadcast, as well as any of the others, we welcome live interaction. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, chime in any way. You can comment, you can shoot me an email, and just make sure that you're a part of the conversation. And if you want to join the Digital Mastermind, go ahead and visit digitalmastermind.com, or again, shoot me an email at john@digitalmastermind.com. That's JON@digitalmastermind.com. So today we have a very exciting topic because it's about people, and I love people. So if you want to grow your agency is a company, right? It's essentially a group of people. It's just a collection of those, and hopefully those are people that you like and you want to work with. So before I get into that, my good friend, co-host, business partner, Dave, why don't you come out here so we can start talking about recruiting and hiring talent?
Let's do it.
Who was your first employee that you hired?
First ever employee, still with us today, Daniel Renner.
That's all right. That's a testament.
Yeah. The hiring is such a it's team building. Really, I really look at it as team building.
Okay.
And it's like putting together the A team. You can't have everyone can't be a Hannibal. Everyone can't be a Mr. T. If you have a team full of Mr. T's, then I pity the fool.
Yeah,
that has a team full of Mr. T's.
It's gonna be one rough ass room to work in, boy. Jeez. Yeah. Can you imagine? Who are the other ones too on the A team? What was there's Hannibal. Who was the little squirrely guy that Mr. T always used to like want to bitch slap and beat up?
It'd be a good question for our audience to fill us in. I'm sure if there's anyone out there that was a big A-team fan. Murdoch.
Was he the good-looking one? No, that's him. He was the little skinny one. There was a handsome dude that was the good-looking one. That
I think that was Hannibal.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. Who was the guy with the white hair? That was the leader.
Like the general or something. I don't know, man. I wanted that van. I wanted to be on the A team when I was a kid and do bad things, like a mercenary, helping people while I did it. But anyway, so yours was Daniel, who we still have today. I want to say mine was Derek, who we still have today.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean,
that's 10 years. Yeah, wow, man, that's insane. 10
that's
years.
A good sign.
I would say, I would, and that's where I think it goes into. Before we get into the recruiting side of things, it's really important to make sure that you have to look inside that you have a culture, right? Because if you don't have a healthy culture, all of your recruiting is going to be a hell of a lot more difficult. And then when you actually get somebody, they're not going to stick around. So I think there's two things that I would state. How can you tell if you have a healthy culture? One is low employee turnover. People are sticking around. That's a really good sign.
Absolutely.
Right. Like we have two people that have been with us, over 10 years, getting some gold watches. Number two would be morale.
Really
What's
rough.
that?
Your audio is really rough.
Is it really? Interesting. All right. Can you hear me? Is it better now?
Yes.
How about now?
Pretty solid, but yeah, it was pretty choppy. If it's choppy enough for me to interrupt you, then it's pretty choppy.
So number two, I would say, is happy morale, little to no infighting, a sense of real teamwork and camaraderie. And then I would sum that up with number three being employees trying to get friends and family hired. That is a really good sign that people want to work there to the point where they want other people to work there with them as well as work there with you.
But, well, I guess we're moving pretty quick if we're already on number three.
No. These are how to test my audio broke up. These are how to test if you have a healthy culture. Right?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
before we get into anything, if you don't have a healthy culture, there's no point for you to even get into the recruiting side of things.
Sure. Well, your second point though, was the retention, long
Low
term. Right?
employee turnover, happy morale, little to no infighting, and sense of real teamwork. And then number 3 is employees trying to get friends and family hired.
So the happy morale thing, though, I think the key there, though, is that people want to be challenged and they want to achieve challenges. They want to be able to achieve success. Like, I think morale will degrade if people, like the people that just have their job and it's just same thing every day.
Yeah,
I think
no novelty.
Right, people will get bored. You got to challenge them. So that's a component of keeping that happiness.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'd say in life in general, right? When people make the most mistakes, whether it's kids or people in relationships, they don't have enough challenges. And because of those things, they get silly, sloppy, and they just do ridiculous things.
Start inventing their own challenges to make life interesting. And then,
hear about people like shoplifting, or they're going to look for excitement in things. It's just weird how the brain works. So anytime I'm hearing about it, I was like, all right, well, whether somebody, kids, family members, when I was like, all right, well, tell me what the challenges in their life. And it's crazy the percentage of people that will have this absence of challenges, and challenge is usually aligned with purpose, right? So you can have challenges and with purpose, granted, but if you have a purpose, whether it's all right, hey, we're going to build this great thing, we're going to achieve this goal, that's when those challenges are really healthy.
Yeah.
All right, ready to get back to recruiting now?
Yeah.
El número uno. I think this one's super important. Not a lot of people take time to do it. Make a solid job ad. That's not something that should be skimped on. And it's really taking the time to write something compelling that tells your story. It should have the functions in there, maybe even some day in the life. Don't have it as just one of the run of the mill. We have one that's really going to have somebody stop, read it, consider what it is. And granted, in a really good job market, like, in a really good hiring market like you have now, where you get, your pick of, this large supply, you're going to get tons of those in. But when you have somebody that really comments on the ad that you have, that's a really good sign that somebody paid attention to what they're applying, because all too often you're just going to get a bunch of shit people. I hate those. And Dave, I mean, we've had those where we look at like, they didn't even read the ad. Like, this is insane. They're just applying. But anyway, one that has people stop in their tracks and really understand what they're going to be doing for you and why they should work there.
So one of the things that I want to do when I'm writing a job ad is I want to provide instructions at the end of how to apply. Mm-hmm. And they're usually pretty simple. Like, what's your salary expectations? Can you actually attach your resume and not just paste it in and things like that? And I'm shocked at the number of people that just don't even follow the basic instructions. Mm-hmm. And I want to make that an instant disqualifier, but when the market's tight, I mean, you just have to be like, all right, well, you already failed my first expectation, but I guess we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, there's also filters, right? Some people use those. What you're talking about is use those as filtering. I know that there was a job, a friend of mine, this was like in 2008, wanted to get hired at this really big company that I won't mention. And they said, yeah, go online and look at the application page, and there's a video. Make sure that you watch the video, and you'll more than likely get a call back. So comes back, it's a couple weeks later, we're all together again. He's like, hey man, I haven't heard from your company. He's like, did you watch the video? He's like, nah, screw that thing, man. I clicked who's gonna watch that video? He's like, well, I told you to watch the video. That's what they use as the filter. So they had you go ahead and set up your account, you watch the video, and then all right, you move to the next phase. If you don't watch the video, they're thinking such a lack of consideration in that company, they don't want to work with you anyway, and no attention to detail.
So but when you have such a low hurdle to jump over and you can eliminate, so it's like what I used to say about online dating. Match.com or a couple others have a $20 paywall essentially. And then there's tons of free dating apps out there. But I don't want, like, that $20 paywall instantly eliminates 80% of the people that I don't want to waste my time with. Because if you're not willing to pay $20 to find, someone to spend
true love,
right? Then you're probably trash. You're probably,
so you don't deserve to be dated anyway, right?
Right. So I want that paywall I want that fee to instantly eliminate people. And so that's what I think, like when I look at the job ad and there's a specific instruction on how to apply for a job and you cannot do that, then why am I considering you for the position? That is crazy to me. And I think that's smart strategies. Like, watch this video and then I would like to know your response about it. Like that, I bet you 80% of the candidates don't follow the instruction.
No. And the sad thing, though, is when you get into that weird situation where you want to hire people, you put these filters in, you're going to eliminate a lot of people unless you really don't need to bring on people. Because I know from some of ours, we have the filters and we're like, well, nobody literally stated what their job requirements were. Anybody that was hireable.
Also, there's a lot of people that it's just a numbers game. I mean, people just applying to apply to apply to apply. And I mean, I get it and I see it. But those are the ones I don't want to waste my time with. So,
I think, good.
No, so that's the advantage of having that little bit of instruction on the bottom that just weeds out the ones that are just applying to every single job out there.
And I think those are important, but this brings up the next point, and all these are ranked in order of importance, right? So even if you have your job ad, this is something that you should use. And this next point is really consider hiring from within, right? So if you only have a limited number of employees, or you're trying to start like a new function in your company, that'd be different. But if you're able to look at your best players that you have and consider hiring them within, consider promoting them or potentially training them in a hybrid model where you can move them over to another role. That to me is the sign of a really good culture, because it shows that people have an upward trajectory, and that to them is something that's challenging. Like, all right, cool. Hey, I'm going to start on the intern level, but one day I could be the CEO. When you have that type of culture and mentality in a company, it's a very healthy thing. And it saves you a ton on all the other recruiting things that we're going to go over. So if you have that as a possibility, I would really implore you to explore that.
And the only thing I would add to that is, like, at the agency level, you're probably talking between 5 and 15. I mean, our target audience, you're talking about between 5 and 15 employees. It's hard to build ladders for climbing. In terms of rank when you're talking about a company that size. Mm-hmm. So we've struggled with that challenge of having that structure of an organization to grow into. And the only other thing that I would add to that is the reason why I like in corporations, why they hire from outside so often, is because when you start getting big enough where promoting somebody is going to cause so much drama or jealousy and all that stuff that, it's almost sometimes better to hire from outside, because you don't want to deal with the infighting that could cause from that. So, I mean, there is politics to play. And it's why it sucks when you work for a larger company that doesn't have that culture, and it foments, nastiness when your peer got promoted instead of you.
Yeah, it's the shittiest thing. I think there's actually an Indeed, one of those commercials. Obviously it's not good enough because it didn't make whoever the commercial is that stick. And it's there's a lady in a room, and she's like talking about like, oh, I could really use this, position. And it kind of plays into that whole sexism thing. We're like, oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and give this to Dave, who's not as qualified. Right. But I think it's important to communicate with the team members and let them know, like, all right, cool, this is what your path looks like. And if you ever have that opportunity, let them consider it. I know in larger companies, they have the job boards internally where there's, potential things that you can apply for. If you take police, right, there's tests that you can become like a sergeant, lieutenant. I don't know what the hell those rankings are exactly. But at the end of the day, if you have that, let's take one of our employees that's an account manager. What'd she start out with when we first hired
her? I was just going to go there because I really like, to the soul of what you're talking about right now, is I love laying out that path and saying these are the steps that you have to do to get there.
Yep.
And you have to show me growth towards that end goal.
Yeah.
I don't care about just achieving this quarter goal. Like, we are working towards a bigger picture. Are you on that climb with me?
Yep. And then the seniority thing doesn't mean like, oh, I've been here for 20 years. It's like, and you still suck. I'm surprised that, you're able to do what you do. That doesn't mean anything. It's what you're capable of achieving and what you've done in the past that are important.
100%.
We got a question?
Ooh.
Ooh. All right. Let's see. A little fan interaction, a little audience.
How do you know the best time to go out on a limb when someone that does not fit all the qualifications you may be seeking? When someone does not fit all the. So, all right, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, John, what do you
That's
got?
a great question. Yeah, I like that. That's what one of those gut feelings, which I'm sure somebody could break down in some model of data. But I think it's all right. Do you believe in this person? And it might be that other sense that you have that's going to tell you, or even look at other past experiences, right? If they don't have all the qualifications that you're looking for, but you've seen them achieve something in a similar scenario, I think that's something that you can believe in. I've bet on people where they didn't have all the qualifications and had great success with it, and at the same time, I've also failed miserably. So I think it just really depends, and it's a case by case basis.
I mean, I'd like to think that our entire company was hired on the basis of you're not where you need to be right now, but you're gonna be, and because I look for the intangibles. And
but
that's
those are
attitude.
qualifications, though, right? Like you could see those qualifications, right, and say, like, okay, you meet these things, then you'll be qualified for it.
To me, it's are you capable of learning? Are you capable of being coached? Mm-hmm. Are you hungry? And are you willing to put in work over and above what somebody's telling you to do at work? I mean, if you've got those characteristics in you, work ethic, or your drive, then I can teach you anything. We can teach you a technical skill. We can teach you how to be an account manager. But you have to have the characteristics of someone willing to want it. And, unfortunately, I think a lot of people that complain about the millennials, nobody's really complaining about somebody born between a time frame. Mm-hmm. They're complaining about the lack of work ethic. They're complaining, and they're just grouping it up into some stereotype. I mean,
and communication. So I think that's one of the biggest things with millennials. It's how to communicate with them. I guess I know a lot of hardworking millennials, but it's just what has to be communicated to, essentially get what it is that you want.
We have a company full of millennials, and they all kick ass. But there's plenty of millennials I've interviewed that I'm like, you don't know.
No, we've had some past ones that I was just like, wow, this is the most incorrigible liar I've ever met in my entire life. Like, this isn't going to work. This relationship is going to cease. But I think that's the main thing, right? And hunger out of all those is, even when speaking with other people, like I'll speak with, guys that are in their 50s and they have a business concept or something. And if I even get the sense that you're lazy, I want nothing to do with you, because they're in business, and laziness are two things that correlate anything positive for me. So you can't teach hungry, but when you can see hunger in certain people that just want to get after it and continually go, like, to me, that's addictive. Like, that's contagious. I want more of that around me.
Yeah. I'm addicted to hunger. If I see something I'm like, how do we start a business together? Like, what do you want to do? Like, how do I help you? If you're hungry, I can help you.
Yeah.
But God, hunger is, there's not a lot of hungry people out there. I mean,
some people just they get full pretty quick.
All they needed is that little bit of success. They just needed, that little bit, and they're good.
Right. It's the bell curve.
They're done. Yeah. They're done working hard now. They just want to
kick on the beach. Yeah. Take it easy. And one day a week.
That's fine. As long as you know that. Like, all right, you don't want to, your ambition is set and you're happy there, and you're doing your thing. I'm okay with that. I just don't come to me and be like, well, why haven't I gotten, three promotions in the last 3 years? Well, it's because you're just doing that bare minimum job, and you're not going over and above, and you're not trying to accomplish more, and you're not trying to take on more responsibility. Like, more money means more responsibility. So,
it's surviving versus thriving, right? Some people just survive, others want to thrive.
Right.
And I think a lot of that's just personality. Maybe there's something that can change at some Tony Robbins conference or whatnot. I'm optimistic to think that's possible. But at the end of the day, when you're in the hiring process, this isn't even a point on here that I recommend. Do not pick up stray cats in your hiring process. You are not a white knight or white nitress. I don't even know if there's a feminine way to say that. But in any event, just trying to be PC, I guess, with it. But in any event,
personally.
I met people that like,
well,
well, you know, like they will just take a chance that doesn't make any sense. Where it's like, well, why is he here? It's like, well, I felt bad. That to me is the worst hire that you could possibly make. So
correct.
I think you need to see a lot of the tenets that you said, Dave, or something that really makes sense, you know, because every hire to some extent is a gamble. It's a liability because you're bringing somebody that's in your house that could damage things between your current employees as well as your clients. So it's something, it's a consideration that really needs to be thought through.
Nothing will set you back faster than a bad hire. I mean, one bad hire will suck 6 months of growth out of your agency. I mean, I cannot stress that anymore because you can't just fire somebody immediately. I mean, you can because I've done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
guy slammed the door wrong one time and he got fired here. Yeah.
Typically, you know, you're talking about a 6 month because you're like, all right, we got to put you on probation and come on, you got to try. And then the energy, it just sucks out of the room. And I mean, just, this is a relationship. It's like a light marriage. So
a mistress.
Yeah. It's like a mistress. And the second it's not fun to visit your mistress anymore, you're just going to be like, nah, not tonight. So it needs to be, it has to be symbiotic. It has to work. You know, that's why matching pay expectations is so key. Because if like I'm leery of anyone that is coming from a high end job and you know, obviously they need a job, so they're applying for a job, and I'm like, wait, this is so below your experience level. Why are you applying for this? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I want to switch it up. And I'm like, no, you're just going to be unhappy in 3 months when you can't pay your bills. And I don't
it's a stepping stone. And yeah, we're not into the gardening here, so no stepping stones. Yeah, on the next. Yep. The which I think brings up the next point. You know, all right. So when you have the fantastic employees that we were talking about, your A players, ask them if they know anybody that's looking for a job, because friends of A players are usually really good candidates. And those are the people that you want around you. Even if it's their associates, they're going to be doing all of the different things in their industry that maybe past companies they worked at, maybe it's, you know, other people that they just hang out with.
People they work with.
Absolutely. That you want, you know, at your company. So I think that is a great thing that you can leverage as your own current employee network.
What's the saying? I can't think of it exactly, but something about like feathers flock together.
Bird of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, if you're going to, and I think there's another famous quote out there that says,
if you hang with shit, you smell like shit.
That too. Or, you know, if you hang out, if 10 of your friends are wealthy, there's a good chance you're going to be wealthy. I mean, like, good people stick together. Good workers stick together.
Look at all these cliches we got. Or you're a summation of the 5 people you're around most.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think it's true. Like, I mean, just think about from our perspective. Like, we've even had clients that we like working with, that we've worked with for like 4 years, and then maybe their business goes under or has hard times, and they get cut. Or we wouldn't really recruit them if it's an active client, but there's times where they get acquired and then they're available, and we're like, hey, they were great to work with. Let's, you know, try that. So I 100% agree. Plus, if you're building a family, you want people that like to work with each other.
It's likability. I know with even some of our guests, we've talked about this in the past, and it's really important to me. I'm a lover of people. Like, I genuinely love to meet people. In fact, I get bored if I haven't met new people. That's one of the biggest things in COVID that's been bothering me. I haven't been able to, you know, just meet all these new people. Yeah, network that. But if you don't like the people that you're working with, work sucks, and it doesn't have to suck at that level. So, and I mean, granted, having aligned values and a lot of these other points. But I know that when you like people, everything is smoother. When you have a team that likes each other, and I'm not talking about homogenization. I'm talking about just genuinely, like, we respect each other, when we like being around one another, then things are beautiful, and those are happiest, best places to work.
Yeah, respect is, I would say, the key, because you don't have to love the people you work with, but you got to respect them.
Amen. All right, ready for our next point?
Yeah.
All right. this is kind of a no-brainer, especially if you're in the agency business. Share the job ad. It's funny how often I'll speak with people that are looking. We're like, hey, yeah, we're hiring. I was like, oh, what are the steps that you've done before? And it's almost nothing. It's just, why haven't I seen this on your LinkedIn or your Facebook or your favorite peer group like DMG? Like, how does nobody know that you're hiring, but you're complaining that you can't pull anybody in? You know, you work in a business of marketing. You have to market this job ad. The other point I would say to that is something that has worked well for us is sending it to your client database, whether that's, you know, email or essentially sharing it with them on LinkedIn. When they see that, it's not only good that they like, all right, I'm working with a healthy company, right? It's growing. They're obviously pulling on more talent, but we were able, this was a past client that we had a great relationship with. They said, hey, you know, one of our employees is looking for another job. We're moving out of this division. Is this somebody that you would be interested in taking on? So I recommend accessing all of your networks and especially your client network.
And we got another little bit of feedback on that. Doesn't sound like this is a very truthful statement, though, but I will share it with the audience.
Okay. That is a fact.
Is it? All right.
Yeah.
So where did you, Kathy, where did she work with you at?
Thank you, Kathy. All right. I have no idea. I feel terrible saying that, but yeah. Let me take a look. Let me see. All right. I was like, what's that?
Keep clicking it on, off.
I'm trying to click on it so I could see. Yeah, let's see. Let me see. All right. We're going to move up to the next point. The next point is... now I remember Kathy. Absolutely. No, that's... yeah, it was great working with her. All right. Number 5, industry-related meetups and conferences. So as far as Astrum, that's right. That's what I meant. Yeah, Astrum. I was that she said it. That was years ago. It was like 13 years ago.
So look at how this proves your point so well.
What's that?
That long ago, working well with somebody, enjoying to work with them, you just reconnected.
That's great. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the point. You know, that just proves that point home so hard. So, all right, moving on.
Kathy, I don't remember you having 4 names when we worked together. Yeah, Kathy Ann Kishlin Smith. That's a long name. Granted, I have 4 names too. My full name is Jonathan Nicholas Costa Sirakis, but I think if I posted that out there, people might think that I'm a Greek piano player. Or
I mean, it'd be cool if you had like a cool acronym.
Oh, that's cool. I don't think that spells anything though. So it would just be an initialism, right? JNCT. Yeah, kind of boring. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for commenting, Kathy. And it's great to hear from you again. I'd love to catch up. Going to number 5, industry-related meetups and conferences, right? So when it comes to industry-related meetups and conferences, what I mean by that is all of the different little functions and things where your team members might be getting together. So for instance, like SEO meetups, you got programmer meetups, design meetups. Those are great places. It could be WordPress if it's the specialty side in there where you can get the UI, UX. Essentially, wherever the people that you want to hire congregate, infuse yourself into those situations and you will meet a plethora of top-level talent. It can even be the people that are speaking at some of those events, depending on the roles that you're hiring for.
So I do have to throw a little caution on this. If you're the CEO and you're going to developer meetups, people hate that. You better be a developer of that. You know, if you're just going there to recruit, nobody likes that.
I love that. I just love the bravado and the boldness of that. Yeah, just go and they're like, look, I'm looking for top level talent. You know?
And you see them once. They're not a member of your team. They show up once. I don't know. As a developer, but what we do is encourage our team to be active in those groups, take leadership roles in those groups, and they become feeder, people for us. And when we have a need or they need to build their team, they're already involved in that group, and that's authentic. I like that. I love that strategy.
I think the other one's authentic too. Like, look, yeah,
I've been in the situation where the random CEO that doesn't know dick about development
You're
is
just like,
yeah. I think
But
it's just
to the person that's looking for the job though, and they're like, all right, hey, I mean, that's just like you want to talk to that person. They came there. They're like the savior.
Yeah, but that to me sounds like it's a person leaving one bad situation to jump into another bad situation.
Maybe I just look at it as timing. It's like sales, right? So you're gonna you're not gonna hit every single one. There might be some just I'm not trying to interrupt your party. It's just what kind of energy are you bringing?
I am.
I'm not. I'm here. Is it? I'm not allowed to come here.
I mean, all right. If you could do it authentically by just interacting with the content and then maybe some networking, but like I've literally been at meetups where a CEO would stand up, do his introduction and be like, "Hi, I'm blah blah blah. We have an opening for a PHP developer, and I'd love to talk to anyone that's interested." And then they don't even stay the full networking event.
Oh, that's just such a shitty person, though, right? So that's not somebody that's genuinely interested in it. I love going into situations where I know nothing, and I let everybody know that I know nothing, because people are typically really friendly with the person that knows nothing, unless it's a bunch of assholes, right? But if you go to a programmer meetup and you just what's that?
People are there to learn shit, though.
Yeah, I'm there to learn. I know nothing.
Yeah. But I mean, they're trying to learn a technical skill. And so that's why when you come in with like hey, I don't know anything about this stuff at all, and hey, I got a job. I think it's so disingenuous.
Well, I don't wear a hat that says dunce, right? But I go in and it's just like, hey, I'd like to meet some people. I'm interested. We're potentially looking for more people, and then just go. And then however you can contribute and add value to that, the better, right?
Okay, here in Jacksonville, we have two significant, types of technical meetups. We have this thing called Tech on Tap, which is more like hey, let's grab beers and chit chat. That I would say go to 100% and recruit, because that's informal, it's networking, it's just talking with people. And then there's the meetups that are like, hey, we're going to learn how to do Ajax or callbacks. Like if a CEO shows up to something like that to learn how to deploy a mobile app using Xamarin, that to me is the unauthentic bullshit, because you don't know shit about that. And why are you here?
Yeah, I don't recommend starting any relationship with a lie or anything. But I think too many people hold themselves back in all types of situations because they might be worried, like, oh, well, what if they don't like me or whatever? Just give it a shot. Yeah, you might get ousted out of the room. Exactly. Yeah. So I've gone to the design ones. I think I've gone to some of the WordPress ones. And I don't even know if it was recruiting. I just wanted to see what was like, all right, what's going on here? Yeah. Is there any way that I can create, some relationships? So number 6, speaking of some boldness, cold calls. Essentially, this is what recruiters do, right? So if you want an employee and you want them bad enough, feel free to reach out them to directly. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Essentially, you could, if you find them on LinkedIn, if you have their email address, phone number, just cold call them, send them the job ad, see if they're interested. If you want to look for spec people that you would hire based on their work, you can use, for instance, designers. We've looked at people using Behance. If you wanted to do searches based on people that seem knowledgeable about something, you can essentially do Google searches to find people that have written about specific programming code and whatnot. I highly recommend, if you want somebody bad enough, to essentially just reach out and ask them if they want to work. I know it sounds like stupid in some senses, like, well, why wouldn't you do that? But it's worth mentioning on this list because it's not enough people are doing that.
That's the difference between, remember that movie back in the 90s, Tom Cruise was getting recruited by this like badass law firm, and I think it's called The Firm, right?
Yeah.
And 99.5% of every worker is never going to feel that sort of recruitment. But when you're good, like if you got a blog out there or you've got a regional or a local thing, and you actually reach out and be like, we want you, that is a good feeling. And you can really get someone amped up to come work for you if you just reach out to them and be like, I love what you're working on. I love the stuff you're doing. I want you to come work for me. That's powerful.
Endear yourself to them. Yeah. I love the work that you've done here. Yeah. And I think depending on the level of talent, right? So in that movie, I believe he got like a perfect score on his LSAT or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
he was the number one, recruit out of Harvard Law or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But
which also reminds me of Devil's Advocate. Have you ever watched that?
Yeah, with Keanu and Al Pacino. That was a goodie. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on that level of talent. If you're working with some of the top designers, top programmers, recruiters are going after those people. You can be one of those people that if you want them on your team. Yeah. And it just depends on if it's going to be a right fit. And it's not all about dollars, right? It's about the culture and some of the other things that we spoke about. Are they going to be a good fit? What type of work are they doing? So I would be, and not that you're an idiot, but I would be respectful, in understanding that, right? So if you're making, if your whole catalog, and this is for me, personal experience, we were creating a bunch of shitty work. I wanted a really good designer to work with us. They said, I'm not going to be the change agent that changes that. That was a good point. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right.
We have to win better accounts so we can create better work. And it's a chicken before the egg, because if you don't have great design, it's really hard to win those accounts.
Yeah. The thing that just pops into my head is that, never hire somebody based on being the most expensive, the highest offer. I never want, you mentioned make sure it's a cultural fit.
Yeah.
I never want somebody coming to us just because we're going to pay them the most. I want them to buy in to the mission and what we're trying to do, and they want to learn and they want to push themselves and they want to teach others. So that's the organization we have here. And I'd never want somebody just to come here because we're paying them the most. So even if in that situation where I'm going to go out and find that person and they're like, yeah, I just need, this astronomical number, I'm going to be like, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I know companies that they just literally recruit everybody by paying the most. And I would say it's pretty toxic culture.
That's your Googles, your Facebooks, like they are, I know people that are getting recruited from like Gainesville and going to Facebook and they're doubling their salaries. Now, I don't know if they're factoring in, they just tripled
cost of living.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they just keep just throwing money, and which is why when they were rumored that Amazon's headquarters, what did they call that? Amazon 2, and then they eventually picked Brooklyn, and the AOC
and Brooklyn said no.
Yeah. No. So everybody here was talking about like, oh, I want it in Jacksonville, and I'm like, hell no.
Oh, I know. It was here. They would have like a whole event to recruit it here. I was like, I want nothing to do with that.
I'm like, what? I would shut down and sell my business then. I'm like, I am not going to sit there and try and compete with Amazon's unlimited dollars on a daily basis. The only people you could hire then are the people that got fired from Amazon.
Right. So, Amazon rejects.
Yeah.
And also what it does to the fabric of a town. Mine wasn't so much business related as what I just don't want to see something come in and destroy a town like it's done to. Sure. Granted, when I first started going to Seattle, it was when Amazon isn't what it is today, in like 2004, 2005.
Right.
And then it's essentially dominating now. It's in, and for better or for worse. So I don't want to see that happen to my city.
Right.
And I don't want to mess it up all the candidates either. All right, number 7, job boards. Right, you probably hear a lot of those ads on podcasts, but I would start with the specialty sites like Handshake. It's great for picking up interns and also college students in recent grads that are looking for work. I would also recommend one of my favorite clients, Jobs in Sports, that specializes in sports jobs. You can find job boards for essentially anything. And if you want, you can pull from things that you find are parallel in industries. We've had a lot of luck with people that worked in hospitality, working for us. I would also recommend some of the other job boards, the traditional ones, such as Smart Recruiters. That's what we use here. It's fantastic. Can't say enough about it. Great, where you can essentially have the notes and everything in there. Also, ZipRecruiter. which I think is a bit overstated. I'd say like 4 or 5 years ago it was pretty hot. I haven't had any luck with them in the last few years. I think it's just, I think it's run its course, and I don't think it's worth the cost by any stretch. And of course, you have Indeeds and some of the others. But job boards, I've only had a few candidates pull from those because of just so many people applying. But I would recommend trying it as you've gone through all these other stages and you haven't, got what you've needed, and just throw it on there anyway, right? So there's going to be 8 points on here, and if none of those work, then you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, I think the job boards.
So that's my least favorite. I agree.
So we use Smart Recruiter and we push out. That's more like a candidate tracking system that pushes out to job boards. And like we do publish to Indeed. LinkedIn is another great one. But the thing is you are then going to attract the attention of recruiters. So if you do not, here's a little pro tip for everybody. If you do not put specifically in your job ad, no recruiters, please, you are still going to get a ton, but at least a half of them will not even try to contact you, because you are going to get developers from other countries. Excuse me. You're going to get recruiting companies from all over the country. I mean, hell, I think if I put a job ad out there, I get like cyber coders instantly, contacts me and says, "Hey, I see you got this opening. Why don't you let me fill it?" I'm like, "No, I don't need to pay you $25,000 because you forwarded me a resume." So the only thing about job boards is be prepared to wade through the junk. So you need to find a way to quickly narrow it down from 100 to top 5 people that you want to interview, which is, like you said, why this is so far down in the ranking, because all that local networking is so much more valuable than just posting on a job board.
Yep. And then number 8, if the job boards aren't working, actually, there's actually 9 points in here. Number 8, if the job board aren't working, look at past candidates. If you've done this before, you can go through essentially a list. What I've also done is with some of the other partner agencies that we have, they've sent me resumes like, "Hey, we didn't hire these people for whatever reason. Go ahead and feel free to look through these resumes if you want to contact them." So past candidates can also be a great place to find a new hire.
So we got a question here, and I think they mean candidate. I'm not sure, but how much research into one's social media do you do when you are targeting a candidate? Yeah, okay. We did get that. And what media outlets do you look at? I absolutely will Google you, and Facebook you, and LinkedIn you, and I'm leery of the people that have no public presence in social media.
I'm not leery of the people that don't have it public. I think the worst is
zero public presence.
Zero. All right, zero means that's a little bit different. But I mean, if you have some type of profile, right? Because zero, I've met people that have zero profile, and you find out why, and you're like, "Ooh, that's pretty creepy." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, wow. But sorry that happened to you.
At a minimum, I want to see a portfolio. You have to have something online.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a social profile, but I need to see something about you online.
I think the other thing too is
because we're a digital agency. This is what we do for a living.
Like Google yourself. Like, I just don't understand why some people don't. And then we had somebody that applied for a social media coordinator or management position, and one of the best interviews I think I've ever had, where I was like, wow, I want her on the team. She was absolutely fantastic. She was funny. We laughed. We cried. I think there was 2 other people in the interview with me who were like, oh man, we can't wait to have her on the team. We looked up her social media, and I was like, wow, she's a racist and a bigot. And it was some of the worst things I've seen on someone I've ever met in person's social media. And I was like, how did she not know that we wouldn't hire her? Like, that's just really sad, crass, gross shit. So, but also with that, like, have professional headshots. I mean, this is going to the candidate side. I mean, have professional headshots. Like, literally just look at all of the sub points that somebody would go through if they were going to research you. And why people don't do this, to me, those are instant disqualifiers. It's because it's an idiot. And I don't want an idiot on my team, a lazy idiot.
Dude, last week I told you, you are what you eat. You are what you consume. And I've got a friend that puts trash after trash after trash on his Facebook. And I'm like, dude, you're telling the world that you're this kind of person. Your social profile is going to be your credit score over the next 3 decades. And I'm like, he's like, I'm not posting it for you. I'm posting it for me. And I'm like, it's public.
What's an example?
I can't even. I can't. That changes the nature of this show. But
got it.
But we are digital marketers.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to be or develop, if we're digital, and if you're trying to get a job in digital and you don't show that you can do anything for yourself, that is your first sign. That's your first step in realizing, all right, so you're not that good at what you want to do because you have no portfolio, you have no social presence, you have we were recently interviewing somebody for a social marketing assistant, and she had a phenomenal Instagram, and it was to the point where I think all the pictures were almost like in the same.
You showed me. It was just like, wow, yeah,
going back years, and I'm like, this is so manicured, yeah. And I'm like, that's what we need. That's what our clients should be getting. So I was like, I want, let's go get this person. So I definitely think social media, and I really feel bad for when I get the candidates and I find them and I see like a wall of trash, and I'm like, what is going to be so hard.
Is equal to a wall of trash to me is when it's private.
Mine's private.
Is yours private?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So
you go through one crazy ex-girlfriend scenario, and you've got to set everything to private.
I've had those, but now, I mean, I think, what are you gonna do? Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna change because somebody else can't deal with something. But so when I see like the private Instagrams and the private Twitters, that's where that makes my radar go up. I'm like, because I instantly think of the bad social media, hire that we almost made, and that's where it goes. Like, why would you not want people to see those things?
Well, my Facebook is public to friends. You have to be a friend if you want to see all my stuff.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Somebody can friend request you, right? Yeah. Right. So, but I think it's a little bit different when it comes to Instagram and Twitter. Like those things, right? Are I don't know. I just people are like, oh, well, that's my private thing. It's not business. Yeah, I get that, but I'm the one that's hiring, and when I see that, I don't like.
I mean, hello, today cancel culture. I mean, people are saying, hey, you work here. You're saying these views. You support this. It's instantly flowing to the employer. So if you've got employees that are out there saying some crazy shit, it might come back to you. You do have to consider that in today's world. I mean,
and the rule of thumb is don't say some crazy shit. Like,
well, I mean, you can't, but you also can't tell employees that. I mean, it's freedom, First Amendment.
I'm not going to tell them that, but I think it's just that's where the candidate you're going to hire needs to understand. Like, there's things you do and then you don't do. Like doing handstand shots, off of a deck with, underage kids. Yeah, that's probably a bad idea. I'm happy to put it on video.
Yeah, I think it's maybe when it was MySpace, that was your little corner of the internet, and you could do whatever you wanted and post your, but now Facebook and social media, that's your face to the world. So that's why, like, when I was managing partner of a landscaping company, I told my partner, I don't care, hire whoever you want, just no face tattoos. That was the only rule.
What about neck tattoos?
Because these people are going to be in the backyards of, potentially single mothers or grandmothers or, and I don't want them to see, this image of our company with face tattoos all over. Like, it was a matter of presentation. And now your Facebook page is that. So
what about neck tattoos?
If they are, I don't know, they're actually fine. I mean, we also work in an industry where like that level of creativity is actually, works for us. I mean,
yeah, face tattoos are just like, that's a whole nother level. I don't know. Maybe it'll be more accepted, and maybe I'm old school in that. But when I see like it's your face, like it's your moneymaker.
They're forever.
Yeah, like people. I don't know. It just I don't know. And I always thought the rule of thumb is don't ever get tattoos on something you can't cover up if you're in front of a judge. Meaning like long sleeves, turtleneck. I don't know.
But here's the thing.
Kind of got sidetracked, and now we're talking about dumb hires.
But there's a difference between face tattoos and then today's face tattoos. Like, we grew up with Mike Tyson having a tribal on his head, on his face. Now people like Post Malone, which is not my generation, I don't even understand it. It's just like they thought a word was cool that day. They're going to tattoo it, right here. I mean, their faces have 85 unique, unrelated tattoos on it now.
I'd say he's the exception for sure.
Huh?
I'd say he's the exception for sure when it comes to
I'm seeing it more and more. I think every artist now that I guess gets popular has just got like a crayon book on their face. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to look ridiculous when you're 50. I mean, that is what I'm like,
Save your money. Save your money, buddy.
God.
Which brings up point number 9. We've kind of touched on this, but if you absolutely, positively can't find them in any other way, you can hire a recruiter. So there's some caveats. Yeah, I get it. But if there are some firms out there that are better than others. And there's some scar tissue where if you hire a recruiter, they may then start recruiting people from your company. So it can be a hard road sometimes, but if you find a really good recruiter, they may be able to save you a lot of the time that's going through all the different types of candidates. They literally give them your credentials. You have a certain sum that worked out with they're willing to be paid. They are typically flexible on that, and you can pull on some really good team members. One thing I would say, based on team members that you do pull on with recruiters, is they're conditioned. This has happened to them before, so they may always be looking in communication with their recruiter, looking for other jobs. So there's a lot of things just to consider when you go the recruiting route. It's literally last on my list for a reason, meaning if you can't do any of the other 8 points, and you are absolutely in a bind, it's something to explore. I personally have never had good luck with it, but I know others that have, and I can just share based on their experience.
Oh, man, I just love this topic. So recruiting is a dog-eat-dog business. And I will say that first, I'm going to start with the positives. Find a recruiter that knows what they're talking about, right? They know the subject. I can't work with a recruiter that doesn't know what development is, what PHP is versus .NET versus, HTML. I'm not looking for a resume forwarder. I'm looking for a partner that's going to help me build my team. Second positive point. If you're going to look at recruiting as the person that's going to take 20% of the salary and just,
sometimes it's 30.
That's, it's disgusting. But if you look at it like that, you're looking at it wrong. What do we do to our clients? We are a outsourced outsourced IT team so that they don't have to hire their own IT team. A recruiter is an outsourced HR team that you don't have to pay for or have the liability on your team all year. You only pay them when you need them. So if you look at it as a comparison versus your, fielding an HR team yourself or outsource it, then it's a lot more palatable. So on a busy year, we'd have 3 people, and let's say an average of $20,000 per fee. That's $60,000 in fees. Sounds like a lot, but if they're delivering you good candidates with an ROI, then you basically just hired an HR rep for a year. And that's not so bad. And you didn't have to match taxes and stuff. So if it's just about perspective on that. Now, the bad stuff, the saying that is pervasive in that industry is, if you're not a buyer, you're a supplier. And when I found that out,
that's a terrible saying. I've never heard it before. That's a shit saying.
Oh my God. I just wanted to burn every recruiting company down. Dude, I have had a employee come in and give us 2-week notice. And I was like, man, really sad to see you go. And then I saw him take a phone call outside, had a 20-minute call, and then I get a call in 20 minutes. And it's this recruiting company that really wants to work with me. And I was like, well, I haven't posted anything out there. the fucking guy just confirmed that my employee put his 2-week notice in, so he knows I've got an opening. And so
Wow.
now he wants to fill the spot he just stole.
Wow.
And I was like, you are the sleaziest. Like, oh, I had to post on LinkedIn. I was like, this company is straight sleaze. Do not take a call from them. Like, oh, just disgusted me.
Wow.
So the good thing about our partnership that we use Robert Half. And I'll even give him a shout out. Mike Russo is a guy here in Jacksonville. I think he's one of the top IT recruiters. And, work with the best so that the best isn't recruiting from you.
So before we had him, I got to work with another recruiting firm, and I set all the things that I set that I wanted, they found not important. It's like looking for a project manager willing to pay between $80,000 to $90,000. Essentially all these things, right? Qualifications. And they would give me somebody that once worked in a project management role that's where it wants $120,000. Find somebody that it's way more experienced that wants to. I was like, what did I fucking do to you guys? Like, you're sending me all of these resumes. Like, none of this makes sense. So that was
definitely
one of the last ones that I worked in. Yeah, just not a fan.
You have to work with a recruiter that's going to do some work for you. If all they're doing is forwarding you resumes, they're not working for you. So
define some of the work.
Filtering out a candidate. They need to know that this candidate doesn't qualify for your job. And that goes back to they have to know what they're talking about. If they don't know jack about development, they can't filter anything for you. So all they're doing is doing a search in their candidate database and forwarding you every resume that matches.
Yep.
Now, here's
and I would say they fall into that category. Yeah. And they're the great salespeople, right? So great salespeople can get super optimistic based on delivering subpar results. And that is what I've found with some of the recruiters.
Another thing is that you're probably have an agreement with them that if they send you that resume, if at any point in the future you want to hire that person, you got to pay them. So it's in their advantage to forward you as many resumes as possible because it's like instantly non-compete or, hey, you got to pay me.
So it's in perpetuity?
Yeah.
Anytime that you would hire this person 10 years down the road, they can
sure there's a time limit. I'm sure there is a time
statute
limit.
Limitations or something. But
this actually came up recently as going back to your earlier point. We had a couple developers going to a meetup, and this guy's now available, and we wanted to interview him. And so I checked my email, and I'm like, because this guy sounded familiar, and our recruiter sent him to us 2 years ago. And so I contacted my recruiter. I'm like, hey, my team's interviewing this guy. I just want to make sure we're not stepping on your, toes. And I don't think we should have to pay this recruiting fee. And he's like, let me ask you this, David. Would you have found this guy again if it wasn't for me? And I said, yeah, it came from my employee. And he's like, all right, don't worry about it then. And I was like, well, thanks. I appreciate that. And I'd love to still send you a little something. I don't want to send you 20% of the salary, but I still want to send you a little something if it works out. Now, it turned out this one didn't work out, but that's a partner again. This is why I like working with a guy. So another tip, when you're telling the recruiter what to look for, always $10,000 less than what you're willing to pay. Because every recruiter, if you give them a range of 70 to 80, then they're going to send you 95s. Because their compensation is based on what that salary gets. That's an
irritating thing to me. I hate that. You're literally not listening to me. And I begin to get irritated and impatient, where it's like, I gave you the numbers, not because I just pulled them out of my ass. I gave you the numbers because that's how much we budgeted for this. So if you're incapable of delivering within those numbers, I sound like the conversation I was giving to this was like, I'm not going to work with you. Like, how? When somebody gives me their marketing budget, I'm not like, all right, yeah, we have $20,000 a month to spend. I'm like, how about 30? Like, what, didn't you fucking hear what I just said?
Right. No, it is, but it's very annoying. And so you just know what you're dealing with. So when you go into it, you can get what you want. So if I'm looking for a $60,000 developer, I say, yeah, we're looking for like a 50. And then I'll get my 60s and I've got some options. So
the horse trading game. All right.
That's pro style tips for DMG people right there. That's
pro style tips. Well, I mean, outside of DMG, this is essentially anybody. I mean,
it is.
All right. So let's, I know we're coming up at time. Let's go ahead and do a recap and a summary for your agency, HR and recruiting needs. You ready for this, Dave?
Let's do it.
All right. Number one, make a solid job ad. Like I said, don't skimp on that. Get something that's compelling. Number two, use your best employees and hire from within if you can. Number three, ask your employees, who do they know that is looking for a job? Number four, share the job ad on social media and email, essentially all of your channels. Everybody should know that you're hiring. Number five, industry-related meetups and conferences. Number six, cold call. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, email, send somebody a message. If you want them, let them know that you want them. Number seven, job boards. Number eight, look at past candidates. That could be for, companies that you work with. If you're in a peer group like ours, asking others, essentially look at other people that weren't hired for whatever reason and take that with a grain of salt, right? There might be a reason they didn't get hired. And number nine, based on everything that we just stated, if you absolutely have to, recruiters. All right. That's the sum up and recap. Let's go ahead and get into a Dave by the numbers.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, let's do this. I don't know what's up with my damn shirt today either. Jeez.
By the numbers.
Dun, dun, dun.
So our number today that I'm going to talk about is a pretty phenomenal stat that Jon sent me earlier in the week of 111,680. Now, what does that number represent? It's how many new businesses were formed in the second week of August this year. That's 69% more than the previous year of the same week. So, I think that's an incredible stat. And it's really showing you that the economy is charging back hard. Now, we don't know what kind of businesses these are. Are these more service industry? Are they more manufacturing? Like, we don't have access to the data that drills down into what kind of businesses are starting. But to have a 69% increase in new business filings in a time when you have record, firings or layoffs 4 months ago, and we see the economy, like the stock market, NASDAQ and S&P 500 just hit record highs. Here we have another piece of economic data that's showing the strength of the economy coming back. And now I'm willing to bet that a lot of these are new digital agencies, because there might have been a trimming of travel and hotel and vacation based industries that were in the marketing industry that got hit really hard. Well, if you're skilled in SEO for travel and you just got laid off, why don't you go do SEO for what you're really passionate about, which might be, real estate or restaurants or other industries. So I'm willing to take the leap of faith that I think a lot of these are digital agencies coming out of the ashes. And I think it's a great indicator, and it's super exciting. So that's by the numbers again, 111,680 new business filings. Pretty awesome.
That's awesome. That's great news. And I think it is from people got laid off. They're like, all right, I'm going to hang out my own shingle. I'm going to go on my own. I think that's probably a part of it. Some of the other could be with the housing industry, but either way, it's definitely a positive sign. 69% increase. That's great by the numbers. Yeah.
So 69% increase over last year, which last year's economy was just already on fire with no COVID.
It was. And I wonder, though, how many businesses start in an economy that's roaring that heavy because of employment levels being, I think those are like best employment levels.
Yeah. I would imagine they're going to be lower because people's lives are good. And you don't have to worry, you're not trying to improve them.
Right.
So if you're not trying to improve them, then you're probably going to see less people giving it a shot. But entrepreneurship is the lifeblood of this country. The ability to build something from nothing. And, like going back to what we first started talking about, who was our first hire? You know how proud it is to hire somebody when you've never done that before, like to be able to grow to a point to give someone else an opportunity.
It's like when a town gets its first intersection. It's like, yeah, we're really doing it.
Building something here.
Yeah.
And, I remember the first time I went to like a backyard pool party and I met my employees, my first employee that had a kid. And I just had a sense of pride. I'm like, hey, we're building something here. That kid is, being supported by the thing that I created. It's incredible. It's just, those are good things. Those are good feelings. So I think huge supporter of entrepreneurs. Highly recommend anyone listen to this. If you just don't know what to do, like find something you're passionate about and go after it. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You fail and you're back to not a job.
Yeah, well, I think also the specialty side of things. Yeah, if you're out of a job and you don't even need to set up a business, just go with you're as a proprietor, right? And just tell somebody you're willing to do something for cash. They can just 1099 you, and yeah, I highly recommend that. Whether it's paid search, design, anything. Don't sit on your hands and wait. Just go and get it.
I love the contractor route, but you can easily get stuck as just being a contractor and not being able to grow. You need to be able to have time to work on getting more business, not just doing tasks.
Yeah, but I think it's important to just take that. I think that's a normal.
It's a first step.
Yeah.
Just don't get stuck in just being that. So.
Yeah, which is also, but at the same, if it took you getting fired to, start your own business, you might need some other cataclysmic event to happen to, start your own company. Either way, take some actions.
So do we got a T squared?
We do have a Syracuse topic today. All right. This one is special because it hurts so bad. It's about freemium models. Me personally, the bone I have to pick with Slack, which I love Slack. Slack's a great tool. We considered on going a paid route for the DMG, in fact, and which actually it's kind of a little plug here. It's free. Like literally, it's all about collaboration and camaraderie, getting people together. And Slack took advantage of that because they automatically switched us over to this trial, which first off, that kind of pisses me off, but it was cool. It's like a drug that gets you hooked on it. And then I find out that it's going to cost us, I don't know, like a few $1,000 a month just to manage this thing. And then there's all the political side with the group. Like, hey, do we want to do this? Do we don't? Which is fine. It could be a paid group. But anyway, so working with Slack, they're like, oh, hey, well, it's just going to switch over back to a free mode, right? Because this is one of those freemium models. We're going to get you hooked on the higher end drug, the designer drug, and then at that point we're going to we're going to pull it away and you're going to miss it. Well, these fuckers deactivated every single account. So now I have to go and do all of this legwork. Mind you, the sweet people in the chat and the email back and forth never mentioned any of this. And maybe it's written in some fine print that my eyes can't read. I didn't see it. But fuck you, Slack. What a pain in the ass. If it's going to just switch back, and that's the emails and all the communications you're going to give me, just have it switch back. So to every platform out there, and I appreciate that I get to use your free tool, but in two other companies, we pay you a whole hell of a lot of money. So I think maybe it's the least that you can do. But if you're going to offer a freemium model and there's going to be something where you're going to take it away, just automatically revert it back to what it was. Don't create any undue pain. And if you are, be ahead of that and say something. Set the right expectation so there's not a negative surprise. That's my Syracuse topic.
Yeah, the inability to revert back to the way it was is, but look, it's all baked in. That is their sales funnel.
Totally. And I get it. We have other companies that use Slack. Like we pay for it. Right. Yeah, exactly. This isn't it's not like this is a for-profit thing. And granted, we're not a 501(c)(3), whatever the hell it is, 501(c), which we looked into, and Slack, I guess, offers great opportunities there. I understand that this is also a free tool that they're letting us use. But then again, we're paying them $1,000 a year based on all these other companies. So I just don't like the expectation. We talk about this a lot on this show. If you're going to set the expectation, go ahead and meet that expectation. Don't be like, oh, whoopsie, sorry about that. Like, what the fuck, man? So now I have to go and spend all my time and all of our members' time trying to get them, reacclimated and, redesignated as, members in this group. Just not cool. Lost a lot of respect. So next time somebody mentions Microsoft Teams, maybe let's say like, yeah, maybe you should check that out. Slack isn't everything I thought it was.
Here's the thing is we actually already get Microsoft Teams for free.
I know. It's looking a little bit more attractive now.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, though. I'm always trying to look for the silver lining. We just probably got rid of all the inactive members that don't add anything to the group. So, I mean, really, the ones that are going to come back, that are going to respond to your invite, they're the ones that are going to be active, that are going to bring some value to the group. So, hey, silver lining.
Yeah, I like that. I love optimism. I love the positive side of things, but yeah. So if you do get switched over to a paid version, or you try a trial in Slack, even if it's with your company and you have a lot of employees, because it could still be a great tool as you begin to grow your agency before you even pay. Just know that it's going to be a pain in the ass if you don't sign up for the free model. Other than that, Dave, I think today's been a fantastic show. Speaking about recruiting, training. If you're interested in joining the Digital Mastermind, go ahead and go to digitalmastermind.com. Shoot me an email, john@digitalmastermind.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode. So that's all I got today. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye now.